Okay, yeah, had a little bit of a moment there. Sorry, sort of forgot what I was doing in the excitement. We've just passed 400 listeners, which I believe is actually a record for live broadcasts on the station. Oh dear, we've actually gone further than that. We've just passed 414 listeners. Okay, get me 500 and get it now. Nerves should probably be kicking in now, but no. Nerves are for the weak. So we shall continue with Blue Please here on WOW Radio. Okay. Now, I just said in the channel, you can give me shout-outs. That was a really big mistake. Now, usually when I say that, I get inundated with shout-out requests, and that's exactly what's happening right now. So I shall get through as many shout-outs as I can before getting on, because admittedly, it does fill up 5 minutes of the show. So, blah, 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 let's see. Glory Guts, hey man, I love the show. Can you do two things? Shout-out to Nick the Undead Mage, and is Athelos a Chava? The answer is yes. Yes, he is. So, shout out to the whole Fear Guild. This is from Reckless Monkey, who are trying to do ZG at the moment, but Storm Scale, EU Realm, needs a reboot. Yeah, that tends to happen, I tend to find in Zul'Gurub. Very laggy place. Ugh. Shout out goes out to Chosen for Sacrifice on Hammer Rush and Mages in general. Shout out goes to Laras and his buddies in AOS, who spanked Ragnaros for the first time on Friday. Congratulations with that one. Clunike says hi. Okay. Viridian, I'd like a shout out to the Over the Hill gang on Whisperwind and Wall, all those young players out there that old age and treachery beat youth and reflexes any time. Absolutely. Shout out to a new member of the Help team, whoever that might be. Not entirely sure who. Can we give Pixel's mum a shout out? Yes, we can. She thinks you're sexy. Oh dear, no, not again. Alright, anyway, on we go. So, working as intended, as we were dealing with earlier. And it was the future of instancing. That's what we want to hear. So, if you've got any ideas about the future of instancing, then send it my way. So, Nath says that solo instancing is a bad idea, and that's due to class balancing. Yeah, I would probably agree with that on the basis that rogues would bypass half the bloody content, as you're well aware. Unless, of course, they made it stealth resistant, but then again, that's not the only example. Solo instancing, yeah, I would say that on respect of solo instancing, you would need instances for specific classes rather than overall instances that a rogue could come in and waste, or a mage could go in and waste. And he says, I think they need more 5 to 10 man. Probably Kamazan in Deadwind and some others, possibly Dalaran. Yeah, I would have to agree with that. Diamor, for instance, is still an instance that can wipe even the most experienced party if you're not careful. Bearing in mind it's only a 5-man. There is very little margin for error in, say, Diamol, and I would like to see more Diamol style stuff, because Diamol is one of the best instances in the game as far as being interesting goes. 3 parts, therefore it's something a casual player can do, yet it is challenging and has some good loot in it. Loot which is, in some cases, exceeding the level of Stratum, Scholarments, UBOS, and in some very rare occurrences even Zul'Gurub. There's some nice kit in there, and you've got to bear in mind that it's not a linear progression from the rest of the instances, in that the kit in there is different. As you found in Zul'Gurub, there is a lot of spell to hit, whereas in, say, Diamol, there's a lot of spell to crit. Now, things like that are what keep people going into the instances, and, of course, that's the reason people go into Zul'Gurub, to get possibly the spell to hit and some of the more interesting items that you simply cannot find anywhere else. More 5 to 10 man instances, yes. Now, Mike, or aka Greyman from the Earthen Ring, says he thinks solo instances are a great idea, and would also very much like to see more 5-man, very deep dungeons with epic quest rewards, not just drops. Yeah. I've always said that, to be honest, quest rewards are a good idea rather than drops, because when it comes to quests, you know that you're going to get a reward instead of basing the entire thing on luck. Yeah, I've just sponsored a Scholarments. Oh, I just got Headmaster's Charge and Robes of Aliana's Embrace even. Whereas some other poor sod has gone into Scholarments 20 times like me, and never got his shivery hand wraps, did he? No, it never happened. So, yeah, that is a possibility. Quest rewards the way to go. D-Kid says this: what I'd like to see are one-party endgame instances. This could make it feel a lot more like storyline, instead of, okay, your group up tanks, my group main tanks sort of feeling. With one party, it would be like the epic heroes, Bob, Jerry, Sue, John and Lee defeated the Lich King with their powers combined. I wonder if they summoned Captain Planet in the process. Instead of the super duper uber guild X defeated Ragnaros with 40 people all dressed in full epic gear. One party endgame instances could make the game more challenging instead of formulaic. Yes. Again, that's the sort of thing I would like to see. And of course, if you do have more ideas like this, send them to themurloc@gmail.com. That is themurloc, one word, no spaces, at gmail.com. Now, Anthony Salter, also known as Viridian. As a player with 3 kids who rarely gets more than an hour to play at a time, I'd love to see solo instances. If I were going to create one, here's how I'd do it. Short. No more than an hour to play at max. Heavy design. They can't just be caves with enemies with a boss at the end. There needs to be puzzles, which need to be tougher than the standard bring the powder to light the cannon puzzle you get in instances. While fighting will be necessary, there needs to be a good amount of non-combat, moment-to-moment content. Yes. The main problem I've got with the idea of puzzles is they would have to be reasonably randomised in respect of Thoughtbot and things like that would make them too easy. While there are puzzles in the game in a very small respect, I think Blizzard has foreseen things like Thoughtbot and said, well, there's no point in putting puzzles in for that exact reason. People will just look on Thoughtbot for the answer. So you need a kind of randomised puzzle that cannot be solved so easily. Now, drops, he says, there needs to be regular blue drops for its level and the occasional purple. Yes, this will piss off the hardcore players. If I may say, I'm not going to say that word on air, but yes, he doesn't like them. I would love to be hardcore. Nothing would make me happier than having the time necessary to get it to 60 and get my tier 2 set. Just because I don't doesn't mean I shouldn't be able to get anything. Right now, the only way I can do an instance is if I have a group of 60s killing everything for me. Well, I'm going to come on this subject a little bit later on. It's something we covered a few months ago, and now I'm going to reprise it with respect to the new content that's coming along in respect to items which are being given to casual players versus items being given to hardcore, so-called power gamers. And that's something I'll be coming on to a little bit later on. Now, that's of course working as intended. If you do have an idea for working as intended, then send it over. Send it over to me, themurloc@gmail.com. Right, a few more shout-outs before I go on. Let's see. Neoad says, can you shout out that Soulspawn sucks as a paladin, my priest will own him any day. Anything can own a paladin, you just have to sort of sit there for about 10 minutes and eventually it'll die. Killing a paladin is a exercise in patience. I'll tell you, here's a fun game for you. Next time you play as your mage and you come across a paladin, see how long you can kite him with a level 1 frostbolt. My personal record is 3 minutes 50 before he's shielded and halved out. See if you can do any better than that. Now, shouts out to the second Gurubashi Empire and Measle, who just left. He will burn in hell. That's from Varska. Very nice. A shout out will, of course, go to the WoW Radio Guild. It's Violent Noise! And their smaller guild, Violent Whisper. Violent Whisper. Sorry, I couldn't be in a guild like that. I couldn't take it seriously. Yes, I am from the mighty Violent Whisper. Oh well, never mind. Shout out goes to all of them. Getting a shout out to all the ACE add-on developers working to create efficient add-ons that don't hog up 20 frames a second. That's from Moonwolf. Yes, you certainly can. Miles says, shout out to Dirk for allowing me to get rid of women and focus more on WoW Radio. What? Dirk, you must die in hell. Oh, don't be ridiculous. Women are more important than WoW Radio. Women are more important than World of Warcraft. The best combination is to get a woman who actually plays World of Warcraft. Bam! Perfect. You're set for life. That's what you want to do. Let's see. Pixel thinks that there should be an endgame instance where you kill Athelas. No, he's not that important. Don't give him any more ego boosting. He doesn't need it. Shout out to Kiki and the content team and the pestering team who get us more listeners. Congratulations on that one. A shout out to all the bubble capping pallies out there. That's from Dives. Ugh. Exploits for the lose. And speaking of exploits, on to the next topic. And the topic at the moment that I have been thinking about and have discussed briefly previously is the idea of Battlegrounds being exploited for rewards rather than being played for the sake of fighting. An unfortunate occurrence. But yeah, I'm going to go a little more in depth into that this time and analyse just where this attitude comes from and what we should do about it and what, namely, Blizzard should be doing about it. Now, all of you should be well aware at this point that Battlegrounds have renown-based rewards. So, if I were to go into a battleground, my first battleground, I would be able to purchase absolutely nothing. But if I were to win enough to get exalted, I get lots of lovely fat loots that I could perhaps be wearing. Now, That is reasonable. The reason that is here is to make people go in there. That's fine. Because, in general, getting into a battleground can be a rather frustrating experience. Now, whatever the issues with the battlegrounds actually are as far as population goes, I'm not even going to pretend to understand. It's simply a case of... It's not that there aren't enough battlegrounds, it's that there aren't enough people to fill the battlegrounds and get them going constantly every 5 minutes or so. If you have 7 battlegrounds running, say 7 Alterat Valleys, I never was any good at maths, so 7 times 40, whatever that may be, on each side, that is a lot of players. You're not going to get your 8th battleground. It's not going to happen. And sometimes you don't have enough players to fill these battlegrounds, and they will never start in the first place. Sometimes what you will find is that, say, for Arathi Basin, or maybe Warsong Gulch, that's an easier example, if you had 2 groups of 6 attempting to join Warsong Gulch on the same side, neither of them would actually get in. Now, whether they've changed that recently, I know this was the case when they originally released the battlegrounds, but this was a problem in that people were trying to join as groups and raids, and they weren't getting in for that specific reason. Sometimes it can take hours to get into a battleground. It's a frustrating but unfortunate reality. Now, of course, you can say, well, you can just go and do something else. The problem with that is that you can be pulled away at any time. You don't want to go and do an instance, because you'll end up being pulled out of the instance mid-instance to actually go into this battleground. You'd end up leaving your friends, your instance mates in there, up the creek without a paddle. Not what you want, really, is it? And you'd also miss out on fat loots, which is also not what you want. So, the question is, why is there such an attitude in battlegrounds that the reason we go in there is to grind rather than to fight? Now, I would have thought it was sort of quite obvious that a battleground is for fighting. You know, battlegrounds. Wow, it's an alien concept to us all. No. You'd have thought that was the respect, that you thought that was the reason, but no, the problem is that when you dangle a carrot in front of some people's faces, that's all they can see. All they will see is the carrot. They blink at everything around them, they want that carrot, and they will do anything to get it, which is why you get exploiting in there. For instance, bubble capping in Arathi Basin is an exploit. It has been called an exploit by Fangtooth. Not that we really trust what Fangtooth says anyway, but yes, Fangtooth said it. It's an exploit, don't do it. It needs fixing. It will inevitably get fixed, hopefully in 1.8. But it's an exploit. And there used to be an exploit where you could actually get through the fence and cap all the points before the bloody thing even started. Again, another exploit. Why do people do it? Because they get the rewards. If people are rewarded for exploiting, they will do it. It's that simple. Blizzard have put a little bit too much trust in their player base in respect of certain things. For instance, people are not penalised for ganking. Whether or not that's because a system has not been invented that can quantify being a bastard, I don't know. But I would prefer to think that Blizzard have put a little bit too much trust in their player base. And I would not be surprised if that were the case. They're expecting players to actually fight in a reasonably honourable manner when the option is there not to. They're expecting people to organise themselves. Now, when it comes to organisation, especially in Arathi Basin, the only reason people don't do that is because they're idiots. They have no basic grasp of tactics. Whereas you may get one group in Arathi Basin, say 4 or 5 people from a guild who are on TeamSpeak and know what they're doing. The vast amount have just gone in there for the sake of it. And when you see 12 people zerging 1 point when the Alliance are capping any other point, every one of them, and you end up losing badly because of the blatant stupidity, or when you see 5 people diving towards one priest on half health just to try and get an honour kill, forsaking the defence of whatever point they were supposed to be at and then losing as a result, you think, what exactly are these people smoking that makes them think that this is a good idea? It's basic tactics. Simple basic tactics. These people could do with reading Sun Tzu's Art of War, because it would be exceedingly helpful to them. Divide and Conquer is the name of the game in AB. You do not send your entire Zerg towards 1 point, because if the other side has an ounce of sense, all they will do they will put up a slight resistance there just to delay you and send a couple of guys around to cap the rest of your points, which are now totally and completely undefended. But people do it. They do it all the time. I see it every single day. This is the reason I try and get larger guild groups into AB, because we can dominate. If we're against idiots, we will dominate, because anyone with a moniker of intelligence and a slight bit of organisation will be the dominant force in a battleground. There's an old saying, which I've said a few times, but I think makes me sound clever, so I'll say it again. In the country of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Therefore, in a totally disorganised rabble, someone with even the slightest bit of organisation and intelligence will win. And they will win. It's a sad state of affairs, but that's the way they're going, and it makes me wonder if there's a way of stopping that, and I shall be coming back to that after the break. But we need a musical break. We do indeed. So, we're talking about battlegrounds, fighting and death. Here's Queen, it's another one bites the dust. Enjoy.